That's why I tell you this. You have to do it. Because, like as I told you about even the very example of a motor vehicle, you can drive it very efficiently even through crowded traffic or marketplace without knowing anything about the engine or the steering or the clutch or the gearbox or the differential and so on and so forth. But when you drive with complete awareness of every part of the body, then there's a different feeling. That's all I can say. Because I am like that. I can feel even the
Yes, yes,
tire touching
exactly.
the road. So then there's a different feeling. That's even about a mechanical vehicle. But when the vehicle and the driver is identically inside the body, you will have a different feeling about it.
Complete feeling, yes,
I can
completely.
only say that it is something you reach there and then you see. All right. So the body also is not that clear. But
Right, right.
body clarity can be tried, but that kind of a clarity cannot be possible for whatever is named mind, because mind is continuously varying. But at the same time, you can use certain phenomena of the mind just to understand that phenomena. Like you have a feeling of anger. Keep that anger, go sit somewhere and focus your attention on what exactly you're feeling. Don't try to interpret it, whether it is in the brain and all that. Try to focus your attention on that which you yourself name as anger, feel as anger, experience as so called anger. Forget about that word. That is very critical. When you do that, actually your doing will be restrained by that wordified ongoing interpretation, ongoing languagification. That alone will take a lot of experience to look at things and the phenomena without the mediation of the language.
Yes.
So anyway, when you feel love, whatever is the feeling next, okay, all right. Uh, at least remember. Sometimes you may not even remember, but remember to close your eyes. It is better to close your eyes to locate what exactly you convert, or you inside in your internal dialogue itself you convert that it is a feeling of love or anger or irritation, etc. Okay, that's what you report to other people, or that's what you accept. You conceptualize a certain ongoing feeling to your own so-called consciousness and memory, and you claim that your feeling of anger is retained by you by that conceptualization that you are angry. Otherwise, that will not even happen. There may be a moment of perception that is your son is not doing what you want him to do. That is all. Why you get angry? So called, okay, there is a perception of variation. You gave an instruction and he is not doing. Then there is a perception. Okay, you can talk to him. You can maybe, to make him understand, you can raise your voice, but you actually feel some so called anger inside you, which only is sustaining what you are doing. All right. So at that point of time, for example, close your eyes and look into you and identify what do you interpret, what are you claiming to your own self, or what do you name as so-called anger. What is happening? When you say that you cannot feel your heart, you cannot know the wild variations of the heart. Of course, the autonomic nervous system is working there, no doubt about that. That's all theoretical understanding. You just cannot know. You just cannot feel it because only an electronic equipment can see that. I mean, identify the variation in the autonomic function. But the resultant, whatever, that you are very sure that you feel angry, you feel irritated, you feel depressed, you feel worried, you feel this, that, etc., etc. They are all trained languages by which that feeling is reinforced and sustained for a certain time. Like it works to your own consciousness more or less the same way it works in somebody else's consciousness. Let us say you are in constant companionship with a girl. Well, I'm just giving a hypothetical example. You eat together, you go for films, you drive, and all those things. But the moment when you say, I love you, things are different. Then she says, no, 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 I never thought so. Or then things are different. Because that relationship, that experience, that events, that interaction is packaged now in a different statement. That makes all the difference. And not only in the person who declared I love you, but in the person who received I love you also. There's a configuration change. The same is happening inside one's own entity. I say to myself, not that you talk to yourself. Sometimes you may say also, I'm angry with you. Okay, forget about that. But there is an internal conversion that is happening without because of certain trainings or anyway, without no clarity. Or let me ask you, with what authority you translate certain experience of you as anger? What is your right to do that and sustain it in that wonderful body of you? If you are respecting your consciousness, if you want to elevate your consciousness to a level of the mystic or whatever we name as mystic, on what basis you dare to translate a certain whatever of your body or whatever we name as into anger, into whatever? And you claim and you try to prove. For example, when you say that I am frustrated, I am trying to prove that you are not frustrated. But you go on insisting that no, I am worried. There is perhaps a problem currently faced by, for example, Veena. Veena is trying to prove and give all evidences that you are basically a confident person. But that person is not agreeing. Because that person has already interpreted and experienced and reinforced for several days out of whatever perception of an experience that I am not confident. So against that, for half an hour or 1 hour or 1.5 hours, what Veena is doing some intelligent configuration of dialogues. But then that person is not agreeable. Every one of us is more or less the same. Only thing is that we are not in a problem. But because we are not in a problem, we are convinced that our interpretations are so-called right, so-called clear, so-called whatever. On what scale it is right. So I'm just dismantling. I'm just dismantling an ongoing machine. That's all. For you to see in the details. So train yourself. It requires a constant negotiation, a constant tug of war. Because the task is on one side very simple, but the other side it is a so-called gateless gate. Again, I am coming because I have a purpose about discussing mind. It is not to talk about whatever I know about mind. I told you I can talk about mind for minimum 3 months, the theory of mind. I am using all this with one purpose, to make you really a mystic, a really genius himself. That is, when somebody is genius in physics or genius in music or genius in dance or genius in official whatever, it's because he or she is in total control, total feeling free, like a genius in driving, absolutely free. Whether the car is driven in 250 kilometers per hour or 60 kilometers per hour, it is equally elegant and beautiful and under control. For example, I first I had a brand new car which I really loved way back. I have never taken a personal accident insurance. I have never insured my vehicle because I am simply sure that I will not enter into an accident. But it is compulsory that third party insurance, that is compulsory, legal compulsory. I know road is definitely uncertain. Even if you drive beautifully, some idiot can come and hit you. That's a different story. But even that, I'm simply cool. I'm simply trusting my tuning with the natural process. Never. Every time the insurance people, because I don't know, they get some commission. They are insisting. So what I'm about to say is that when you are in tuning with even a vehicle, that is your level of trust. So that tuning you can have when you know your consciousness. The vehicle that you are inevitably in the car you can enter and go out. But in the vehicle of your ever ongoing consciousness, you are an integral part. That is what is a mistaken role, and for actually that is the fact. That is why you often say, "I feel depressed." Actually, it is a false statement. A state of depression processed by the logic of consciousness is sensed by the eye. That's all. Like more or less like I see a painting, but that painting is outside. And as I told the example, if we look at simple example, the visual signals of that painting is falling processed in the occipital lobe, and you say, "I see a painting," or "I see the computer screen." Similarly, you say, "I am depressed," but the painting of depression is inside you. That's all. But from early times onwards, that entity's attention is trained by the environment very rigorously. That is why the mother comes and asks, "Ayyo, mol vino, monenduvichi, ayyo." The folk that by the expressions, by the responses, by the behaviors, by the actions, by the dialogues, the others are constantly trained. What is happening? The most intimate, rigorous training is given to that attention, that powerful entity, to look at it as itself. You see, most of the so-called enlightened great guys who have not been trained in a home under the parents. Understand that? If they were also trained by the parents, they also would have been like most of the people. This is true even with the so-called creativity. Look at the history of every single so-called creative original individual in the world. They were not trained by their parents. They were not intimidated or restrained or rebuked by or controlled by their parents and by the ridiculous jail of educational classrooms. Similarly, these enlightened people, whether it's Satsai Baba or Vivekananda or Osho or Ramana Maharshi or whoever, they were not rigorously controlled by a powerful environment. So they got that freedom coincidentally to observe whatever is observed and to look at it as a witness or an observer. So you must constantly focus every day when you go to sleep. You get 5 minutes or 3 minutes. Just don't go blindly, mechanically to sleep. Because most of you are working. Nitya is working, Naveen is working, Ramesh is working, Meenakshi is working. Who else? Vinay is working. So daytime it is not conducive. But you have that pristine 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 minutes. It's a very conducive time. I would say that's the most appropriate time for so-called. so-called stupid word meditation implies. I would say all these words are stupid because they're all giving wrong signals to the people. First time I'm happy that I don't listen to all these people. I refer to them only to talk to you. First time I hear somebody, it is Sri M talking that you can do pranayama in whichever position. You can sit on a chair or anywhere. Everybody else is talking about sit in Padmasana, sit in blah 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 blah. None of it is required. This is what the Zen masters identified. You don't have to do the so-called puja or meditation or anything. Because the purpose of so-called meditation or the purpose of incubation or the purpose of the inspiration of the individual is to locate that operating entity, or the inspiration of the individual is to identify what is that inspiration itself, where that inspiration is contained itself. Then that operating principle is operating when you're just, even when you're cooking a cup of tea. You don't have to go to the Himalayas or to the ashrams or to anywhere else. So that operating principle is operating even right now when you're sitting right now there. If for a moment right now you are able to take that your own attention as a camera just above your head and look at you as sitting there and listening to me and comprehending, can you do that?
Sir, it means that consciousness can work without past experience.
What do you think?
Yeah, that should be the ideal state.
Yeah, that's all.
That
That's all. You have answered it without talking the answer. All the time, the consciousness is continuously aware of whatever is the emerging contents because you are in a situation. Why in normal all the directions given to so-called meditation or incubation, you are asked to be alone, preferably in a closed room or in a cave without much disturbances, without much objects and attractions around, and close your eyes, sit in a certain posture and then focus on something. That's all to restrain the ongoing and uncontrolled flow of other so-called, as you said, the mental impressions or memories and all those things. When you precisely sit for that, as you become relatively silent inside, then you will be sort of disturbed that all kinds of things are coming to the mind. Because, as you said, the so-called mind, even by its definition, so-called forget about whatever that inside, forget about consciousness, mind, etc. Whatever that inside is constantly maintained, like Naveen you said. As of now, it is nothing but a bag of memories and awarenesses and knowings and whatsoever. Agreed? Yes. But all those baggages together are not that inside you. That inside you is aware of the contents of the baggage. That's all. The heat
right.
cannot identify itself. It requires some other the other. A thing cannot identify itself. Simple fact. So that consciousness is identified not by consciousness. It is something other than consciousness. It is something else which is sensing all that is going on. No doubt about that. But now you are aware of it. Now you know that. But to get into that, I am sure it is not easy. So do not expect that. But begin with that awareness. But get a clarity about this proposition. Be clear about this map. Traveling that territory you do later, or every day night as you go, you do it. As you sleep, as you lie down on the chair, bed, you try to see that which is lying down there. Uh, you imagine, for example, you imagine that body which is lying down there on that part of the bed. If you see yourself lying on that bed, but something like that you try. Then that is, for example, one of the things. When you do that for a few days, then you yourself will discover the next step to be taken. It is like you are given a piano. You do not know anything about that. When you press the keys, the sound comes. You go on pressing all the keys, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Finally, you will discover that certain keys are going in a certain advantages or a certain pleasing direction. That is the
Yes.
first song you make on that. So similarly, you behave with the bicycle for a few days. Then you will discover that you got the balance on it. Similarly, you, without any anticipation, without any mental trap of speed trap or anticipation or any so-called greed for so-called pressure, be very gentle. That's so important. We be very, very gentle. Don't insist. Very gently wait, but keep on doing. Then no doubt the balance on that cycle of your entity must happen to you. This is the best direction I can give. Don't try any method because the method is not possible. These so-called gurus are talking about a method in the sense that they are trying to get the people because they cannot, we took this much of time to talk about all these things. Now you are grasping a lot of things in the most accurate way because we spend a lot of time discussing about concept, about referent reality. Therefore, now you start reading books. Now, if if you want to listen to somebody else's talk, you listen. Now you will get more. But see that you don't get what call impressed by and get waylaid or misled by them.
Yes, sir.
The minimum guidelines. So just behave with that. Focus your attention. This itself, one moment, I'm sure there could come a situation where you will actually see the you lying down there. That is a great moment that you will know. By the time you achieve that, you are reaching actually very much close to take the next step. That is to locate that which is becoming aware of whatever it becomes aware of. And that is what everyone in this so-called monasteries, in the ancient monasteries or in the Zen monasteries, they were all trying for that only. And that is all. Then the rest is yours. So what to try? That's what I have told you. But when you try that, don't insist. Don't apply force on the handle of the bicycle. You will fall down. Just behave with it very gently, very lovingly, very simply, when I say, with careful carelessness. And I am preparing you for this. That's what I have been doing. Because very surprisingly, in a way, I would say. By the time you come closer to that, there will be terrible excitation. There will be a terrible excitement, a kind of a feeling of whatever we name as anxiety. There will be a heartbeat increasing. There may be perspiration even in cold condition. There may be a kind of increased respiration. A lot of things will happen. You may even translate it into fear. No doubt. But at that time, you just stop it, get up out of the bed, take water. Water is the number one thing. If you feel an uncontrollable, so-called whatever, I don't want to name it. If you feel going sort of out of whatever, just get up. Remember to get up and take the water bottle and drink water. Or if that cannot stop it, just take the water into your hands and splash it into your eyes and splash it into your ears. That's all. Every one of you is likely to come across that stage, because that's why I have taken your attention through various perceptions. Because I know, because I see the distance and I see the map and I see the destination. You are the traveler, you are midway, therefore you don't know. This is going to happen to you, every one of you. Because that's why I have conceptualized my language. But there is a little bit of a statistical mean applied, because I have to talk to 10 people's perception at the same time.
So to understand that particular thing about yeah, why we should drink water or splash out, the mind is traveling. So if we let the mind travel.
No, no, no. Yeah, good that you say this. No, no. What I said is not about mind traveling. What I talked about is your apparent control on your attention to locate whatever is going on in the so-called mind. Mind is, of course, that consciousness is going on with the perceptions, whatever that is going on at that point of time. Okay. And that traffic of contents happen there. Okay. And what I told you is to, instead of becoming one of the items of the consciousness, which you think I am that attention is still separate from that. So when you get stabilized in that attention and you continue to observe whatever is going on in the traffic of the mind, there is all likelihood that that attention will get fused with the what they talk or what can be talked as the original consciousness, the original mind, that mind which is only a template, which is only a screen where these films are being continuously projected, Ramesh. Then there may be moments where the projection becomes very slow and you are about to see the empty slate, the so-called whatever, wherever that contents are moving. Get it? At that point of time, it is likely that there could be a shiver, because that's the first time. Like your first time on the steering or first time on the stage. Even when you're first time on the stage, when you see the audience first time, I am sure there must be some kind of a trembling. No doubt about that. Why? You're first time confronting a new set of signals. Similarly, when that attention first time confronts that flowless meaning without any flow or reduced flow of traffic on the road of consciousness. And when you see just the road and no traffic, there is likely to be a shivering, no doubt, because there is a huge process. All these moments, the central nervous system is working, Ramesh. Finally, all these things are in the central nervous system. Like Naveen said, ultimately all these are happening there only. The observer and the observed, all these things, the enlightenment, all this damn thing, finally the consequences in the central nervous system. When such a strange perception is happening, there is all the likelihood of so-called we can say mortal fear. I did not want to say that because uh, of various reasons. But anyway, I had to say this as a warning. I said, by chance, if you become of kind of a that's why only the word fear is not really relevant there. It is something more than that. Because there is nothing to be afraid of, but there is a different kind of a tension. Your heartbeat will definitely increase. Your respiration will increase. There will be different kind of feelings maybe in the body, in the abdomen. There may be a gradual kind of a paralysis. Anything is possible. But you will be aware that, but very luckily you will be aware that you are near that. Like you are near the firewood. You are about to enter the fire. But there will be the heat of the fire. That means that shivering, for example, that anxiety, that trepidation, that feeling when you are first time on the stage. Something distinctly similar to that. If by chance it happens, I told you that you must apply immediately water. Otherwise, what will happen? I don't want to tell you. Anyway, in your trials, even if you do not reach this um, tentative next junction or next point of uh, uh, reaching the Mount of Everest, whatever little minute you do this, that much of alertness, that much of awareness, that much of wonderful uh, consequences have already happened inside you. But because of your regimented lifestyle or your constancy of environment, you may not know that. You may know that when a situation comes. Okay? Because every moment you are doing on the central nervous system, every moment this new neuronal network, these are all extraordinary activities that you do. At least I want to at least contribute that minimum guaranteed things to you. There is a proverb in Malayalam, that which is born in the fire will not be faded in the sun. So this is a kind of a fire that you are applying to the neuronal process in the body. There will be hormonal changes. There will be all that depending upon the distance you may cover. There will be what you know from that motor cortex. Especially there will be a lot of neuronal alignments and realignments. Like how do you see a changing film on the screen of the computer? There's a constant variation of lights turn off and on, right? Similarly, and that is possible because of so many switches in the CPUs are turning off and on and off and on and all that. Similar is the process in the neuronal cells of the cerebral cortex, which will go down to the midbrain or the whatever is named, whatever those areas, and it will all because the brain cells cannot do a doing. It will all go down to the spinal cord, and then it will reflect in the increased heartbeat or increased respiration and variations in all those things. Sometimes you may even feel like going to the toilet. Yeah. Like you have seen some people when they are forced to be on the stage, they would feel like going to the toilet. Like some of the students feel going to the toilet when they're facing the examination. Heard of it? Yeah, yeah. Because they become so scared. Scared and all is the word that you use. Not that they're scared, but that similar thing. When somebody is scared, they will immediately urinate. You might have seen that. Yeah. Because that scare, that whatever is perceived, it is in the brain, and the impressions go down the spinal cord, and there will be, if the heart, if that heart is not responding properly, or the intestine is not performing properly, the signals will go down to the urinary bladder, and immediately they may defecate or urinate. And you should be with a minimum or optimum food, ideally little lesser than the optimum food in the stomach when you do that every night. Because when the stomach is full of food, most part of the motor cortex, that means the particular cortical region which should contribute a lot in separating your attention from consciousness contents, will be all engaged in the huge digestive process. That's why in the ancient monasteries there was minimum food, minimum clothing, minimum attention to variations of attractions and so on and so forth. The mind is maintained in a certain plane. So what is, for example, upavasa? Upavasa is a method of enlightenment. When you deny food to the body, then a lot of midbrain area is relatively free from the huge process of coordinating digestion. So that much of freedom is there on one side. On the other side, there is that familiar feeling of hunger pang. At that time also, your attention has to constantly try to locate that part which is translating whatever that feeling called hunger to you. Yeah.
Sir, I prepared some document about 2 years back. So this is about for experience design. So when we see some design, how a person perceives and create that wow sensation. So can I share that? Such, but it's now after this our last two sessions. What I prepared feels a bit primitive, but I just want to get some more feedbacks on that, sir.
Yeah, do
Can I?
it. Do it. You do it because we should be interpreting it in terms of the so-called mental phenomenon. Or I will do that.
Yeah. 1 second, sir. I'm using a different system today, so it's creating some problem. Sir, I'm sending an email to you. Can you open that email, sir?
All right. Yeah, open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just come.
Yeah. So can I please share it, sir? I'll just here I again try to confuse lots of things, but now let me try to see if I could with what I learned in the last two sessions. Let me see if I could make some sense out of this document.
If you cannot sense, I can sense it.
I'll try to build on top of it, sir. So yeah, can you share that screen, sir?
Let me download and open it and save it into the desktop.
Yes, sir.
And this also, okay, it got saved, but okay, lost that. Yeah. Oh. Where is the thing gone? I have to go to downloads. Go to downloads. I have kept it there, but it is missing now. Go to downloads, that's only. Just here, how did it vanish? Yeah, that one, this one. Yeah. Yeah. Is it visible now?
No.
Yes, yes, it's visible, sir.
Yeah.
The background about doing this particular.
No, you don't have to tell the background. You go, it is straight clear.
Yeah. So when we perceive, so we are perceiving through our senses. So that is where the perception starts, the ability to become aware of something through our senses. So that senses, once from an external environment, this as a body, we are perceiving the external environment through the senses, and it is entering into our body. So that when it's entering into our body.
Yeah, there is a problem, Ramesh. Most of the words are without any correct referent correlation.
Okay.
That is not entering into the body and all that. But okay, go on.
Okay. So once we start perceiving, there are so for example, in terms of sensing, we can take all 5 senses, or for this particular discussion, let me take only one example of visual sensing. So when we are seeing stuff, so that lots of things that we are seeing, but in that our eye is perceiving, it's attending to only certain aspects of what we are seeing. So
because when you choose to do so.
When you choose. So and once you start seeing that particular aspect, is where you are trying to get the information related to that particular aspect. And when you are trying to get the information, you start understanding, you start putting your mind in terms of learning that particular what you are seeing, and that goes into your short-term memory. So this is what the intellect does. So where the thinking, the thought process, the visualization, all that is the top level, the cognitive aspects that we discussed. The second one, which is at the bottom, is where the mind is coming in. So where that emotional aspects of a subjective feeling. So it's again, we also were talking about the so-called. So it's again, it's not really very objectivized. It's very subjective. So that subjective feeling is where the emotion starts to come in. That emotion, when you're seeing something, that emotions leads to creating some opinions. That opinion is what you are expressing. So you feel hatred about it, you feel wow, this is beautiful, or you feel this is not what I wanted. So that expression is the opinion that you portray because of some subjective feeling. So these two are the ones which I am able to relate to with our session, where we are talking about that one aspect of the mind, where that emotion aspects of it, and that one, and from there is where it gets into both the intellect and the mind, both the cognitive aspects of it and the expression aspects of it allows you to take some decisions. So here I was talking about decision making thing. So I brought it down into a decision making, but not necessarily. So both these put together gives that emotional arousal. That emotional arousal is where that sensation we are talking about. It's that goosebumps. So what sends that goosebumps? The feeling of perception which causes reaction of interest or excitement, that you feel when you see some visual or something, you feel so excited about it. That excitement, that the journey from perception to sensation, the journey from what you are seeing or what you are allowing yourself to enter into your body, and that feeling of excitement, that you're getting that goosebumps, it's both to do with the intellect and to do with the mind. Put together is where that emotional arousal feels, that you feel that wow, this is really good, or you feel really hatred, anger, something like that. And from there, if it is a positive, that emotional arousal is really positive, is where you get into that motivation. And that motivation is where it again goes on to our next more cycles and so on, where from your short-term memory, that motivation goes into your long-term memory or long-lasting effect. You remember certain things when you're attached to certain things, all that thing goes on. So this is just one model which I prepared long time back. But
it is definitely very good, but technically there are certain conceptual mistakes. It begins with visual sensation. It is sensation leading to perception. Sensation meaning you're sensing an object there. Okay, let us say good designed objects. Sense,
Agree with that, right?
which leads to perception. You have a sensation here.
Okay.
That is not actually, you are meaning a different kind of a sensation. It is okay. It is kind of an interception, in the internal sensitivity to the beauty or grace of whatever is perceived, by which you say it's an emotion. Even sensing beauty, it creates an emotion. You said that at the high level there is so-called goosebumps outside. Yeah. When you said goosebumps out of seeing a wonderful sight, this I immediately would relate to what I talked about using water, etc. Okay. For example, when you proceed, I believe that you may proceed to try to locate that you externally, separate from you. Then you are coming across the most wonderful sight of you seeing the you lying down there. When I say this, you easily comprehend, but when it happens, it's a different phenomenon. Then it will not be goosebumps. It will be something much more serious happening in the entire, and it is something like goosebumps happening to the heart. So in order to change the body process, you apply water, preferably cold water. All right. So this I used with this model which Ramesh has made. I am just again taking your attention back to that. All right. But at the level of Ramesh, with completely engineering background, this diagram made by him is definitely great and wonderful. which I don't know, when normal psychologists would not do this. But only thing is that your existing understanding of, for example, an object here, all right. First, of course, don't say selective attention. You focus on attention. Selective attention and all is great thing. It is not. It is not easy to do selective attention. But let us say so. Your attention first is sensory reception. Second is attention to whatever is. There can be a redoubling process. First, of course, there is. You have to look at that thing there. All right. So attention to that. So then, because of looking, attention meaning so you are looking onto that object. Then there is so then only there is sensation. Because of sensory reception, which you can choose to mention or the. Then there is perception. Okay. So as a result of perception, there is some feeling. This is the first unit. It may convey or may not convey, but if somebody is choosing, you may be just a casual observer. But if someone is interested in that, it may convey an opinion. Yeah, I like it. You may feel inside. Sometimes he may tell the other person also, yeah, it looks beautiful. So that is the result of an appraisal there also. There is an appraisal happening there. As a result, you are talking about a different appraisal, about buying that thing or choosing that thing. That's the second level of appraisal, because you want to buy it or you want to get it. This you made it in a different context, I
This is
suppose.
a different context. This is for,
So
for
then there is a decision making whether to buy it or not, or to stay there for some more time, look into the details. Okay, emotional arousal will be in the context of feeling. Okay, because you feel the grace of it. That feel which is connected with the perception. Okay, the perception should come in one of these boxes. As a result, then there is a decision making. Okay. Emotional arousal is not connected with the decision making. There can be an emotional arousal with the decision making also. It all immensely varying depending upon what this object was, what was the intention of the person who was looking at it, and so on. Then there is motivation to buy it or whatever it is. So now you look at these concepts and its reference, and then restructure it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
It
sir.
is really wonderful. But at the same time, it may appeal to an ordinary audience. But among the audience, if there is someone who knows about this little more clearly, because these are all subjects thoroughly researched and explained, and several theories made in the subject of psychology. So, but still, this is a wonderful design. But I wonder when you said that it is not perception leading to sensation. It is sensation leading to perception. Because first of all, you have to sense. Perception is an internal process. So, but nevertheless, it is a good diagram.
Okay, sir.
But change some of the concepts, then you will be able to explain it much better also, like I explained.
Yes, sir. So still I'm not getting that perception leading to sensation,
No. Sensation leading to perception.
sensation leading to perception.
First, sensation meaning sensing, using your eyes or ears or all together. That is called sensing in the conventional language. If you use the word sensation with its available established meaning, first happens is sensation. Let us say you have to hear the music. That is sensing the music. Okay, sensing the music. That means you. That's a technical term. Let's say hearing the music of violin. Then there is a perception. Oh yeah, this is wonderful music. You experience it. Okay. From which it goes to feeling, emotion, making opinion that it was a wonderful performance, etc., etc. Then you may take. I mean, other things are, if applicable, will come there. Okay. First is sensation. That's very
Sensation.
obvious.
Because
By the word sensation. These are
I
sense organ, indriya, sense organ. Yeah. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the five basic senses, then the internal sensing of proprioception and interoception. They are called sensation, sensing, the signal detection.
Yes, sir. First is sensation. When we give meaning to this sensation or we acknowledge that sensation, that is perception.
Yeah.
And then
For
in
example,
perceiving
yeah,
things, in
like
perceiving
Naveen,
things, the
like
mind, the role of mind or a past experience comes, and it is sometimes or and that perception may be subjective, objective. That depends upon the quality of the person who is perceiving. That's why sometimes it happens that we perceive things as we are, not as things are.
yeah, exactly, yeah. These are all more or less indisputably conceptualized in the field of psychology. And this is why I also feel, and some others also feel, that psychology should have been a compulsory paper subject in the primary and secondary classes.
Exactly, sir.
But a lot of people argued it. It is only the Catholic Church in the US did not agree to include it in the syllabus. It's all clear
Oh,
records are there. Yeah, because if psychology is accepted, the founders of not only Catholic religion, most of the religions will be shaken. That's it. Okay, it is
yeah, yeah.
nevertheless it is a wonderful attempt, especially considering the background of Venice. All right.
I'll try reworking on this, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
But you, with your available language of the internal process of the human being, you have conceptualized it very brilliantly, no doubt about it. All right, I remove it.
Yeah,
Are
yeah,
you
yes, sir,
close
yes,
now?
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you,
Okay.
sir.
But it has helped us clarifying once again what you said. Now, at the same time, we were talking about sensation and perception of a different level. Use this for example. Okay, you are sensing your body as an external observer. Ramesh was talking about looking at a beautiful design. In your attempts of trying to take your attention outside you, that means when you're insisting or in your awareness that I must, for example, that internal dialogue. Let me try to see the body, imagine the body, or visualize my own body lying down on this bed in this posture. You may lie down upside down or downside up or left side or right side, whichever. Okay, you're insisting. You can imagine because you saw your dress, you're familiar with your body, but you are in a dress. Okay. At one point of time, like we are meddling around with this handle of the bicycle of your attention to see the body lying down there separately. At any point of time, that is why I said you have to keep a glass of water. Sometimes, because I must tell you this, because I am actually taking you through very dangerous sides. These are things I should be talking in your physical presence. Ideally, just now do it before 12 o'clock in the night. Sorry, you should do it before 12 o'clock in the night only. Because I am not sure when you will be slipping over to the balance of the cycle. But having told you all these things, I am sure you will be in control. I am very sure because, as for example, there is Meenakshi here. She had a, I will not talk about that, but she had a remarkably dangerous moment. I would say remarkably dangerous, but she managed it very well. So, uh, you will also manage, no doubt about it. But keep water, especially because your bodies are not trained. You listen to any of the so-called gurus, even for doing real pranayama, my dear friends, nobody will talk publicly because they have that basic sense. What Ramdev says or what you call Sri Sri whatever says or I am sure they will not talk the correct procedure. No doubt about that. because they will be in trouble. Because somebody will say that somebody tried pranayama and he had this and this and this. That will work against their own popularity. Okay. So when you come across that greatest power, what is a human being? It is the greatest power in the world, in the known world. When the glimpse of that power comes to you, the normal consciousness, which is not trained to be familiar with all these things, it may undergo a shocking experience. That's why yoga, so-called yama, niyama, whatever, there are so many rules. You have to be trained in controlling your emotions. You have to be trained in the yoga positions. Why this yoga? Forget about the word. What is a so-called yoga? Yogic position. It is actually a contorted position of the body. That's why when you sit in Padmasana for the first time, you will feel terrible pain on the legs. All yogic positions are, let us say, unnatural positions of the body. That is designed for a purpose that the body becomes strong enough to face the consequence of the goosebumps inside. You know. So right now you are trained in knowledge. I have given you. You may not be recollecting all those things. I have taken your attention through most of the required elementary understandings that will come to facilitate you when you undergo such things, even without your awareness. What Meenakshi had around 11 o'clock p.m., 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock whatever p.m. some few days back, alone in a house. She is virtually alone in a house. This was one of the most uh, potentially dangerous experience. I am saying in the sense of having goosebumps inside. But she not only managed it, on the other hand, she felt it as something very wonderful. That will happen to you too, no doubt about that. But you should be thoroughly prepared. I have trained physically directly, Meenakshi, but I have not done this to any one of you. But I must take your attention and thought process through all these ideologies. Let us say, I am just, as of now, I am just giving you only knowings. Jnana Yoga. I am just giving you jnanas, knowings only. But these knowings are also potentially powerful because every knowing is registered as a neuronal network. Like if you look at an object, even an engineer, I said even because engineers are not normally trained in poetry, literature, beauty, and all that. Okay? Even he could easily conceptualize the possibility of goosebumps when you see a wonderful design, which is quite possible. So goosebumps, in fact, in the diagram of autonomic nerve system, which I showed you in the PPT, on the side of it, actually goosebumps are shown there, if you remember. The raised hair is shown on the side of that autonomic nerve system diagram. At that time, I wanted to say that, but I don't remember to say everything at a given point of time. So I was surprised when Ramesh used that precise example. So that goosebump happens because that autonomic nerve impulses suddenly spreads the entire territory of the body to such an extent that it pulls even the small ciliary muscles of every hair. But that is in a very positive situation. But in extreme threatening situation also there can be goosebump. But extremely beautiful experience also you can have